was little embarrassing actually to to have a CV to be read across. But yeah, I think in about close to 90 minutes time, I'll take it up, and I've got something planned, of course. But if you could ask your questions, I will take it up and try to change the course of my delivery and do that, because when people talk about career path. Now, obviously, it's not the first time, it's maybe 100th time, or I don't even know how many times people have spoken about career path and how we have to take it forward. But when you realistically see what is career path is, what you wanted to really do. You know, most people don't get that question right. That's exactly where I wanted to get it corrected, and then want to see how you wanted to pursue further. So because today artificial intelligence and machine learning, you think it's ruling the world is one side, or cyber hackers and cyber terrorists who are trying to lure our data and trying to make money out of it is one side of the story. And on the other side, it's like we are improving ourselves in the space industry, or we are doing great job in our mathematics and all other things. These are all which are in front of our eyes, right? But when I started, it was much more different. In fact, when the time I started writing my research proposal, I didn't know what a research paper was, right? It was not very far away. So say about 2009, I finished my master's in computer science. It was a 5-year integrated program, and we never had the ideas. We had internet. Fortunately, we had exposure. At least I had exposure to internet very early, and I had computers very early. When I was in my school, my father was happy enough to buy me a computer, and things started moving there. But what is next? You know, it's a question that keeps coming in from your relatives, your father's colleagues, your mother's colleagues. You know, these are all common questions. Like, what's next? Hey, you finish your 10th standard, you've got a computer at home. What's next? I said, what is the point in answering right now? I said, let me hold. Let's come. Let the result comes. I know I'm not going to score well. I'm pretty sure about it because I'm not a good scorer. But let the result comes. So the result came. Now result came. What's next? I said, what? 11th, 12th. That's exactly what it is. What do you call them as preschool, pre-college, whatever you define it. So it was like, see, even somebody is going to ask you a question and then you got to give an answer. That's one level, right? You give an answer for somebody to shut, right? I never wanted it. I heard people coming back and they said, my parents, hey, your son does not even have a path. He does not even have a scope. He does not even know what he is doing. You know, maybe ask these questions to him. Of course, my parents came and said, they said like this, you know, what are your plans? I said, leave it. Allow me to do what I wanted, because there are a lot of time that are realistically available. I'm still in my school. I'm still just going to get into my college. And let me complete all those things, because the real world is just outside the campus of the college. And that's where it started. So by the time things started moving, I started participating in competitions, get to know not the real world. We think that is the real world, but that's actually another imaginary world where you've been given with certificates and laurels and prizes, and it's now becoming more specific to cash prizes like 20,000-25,000 rupees, where you get to enjoy it outright, right? It was not then. But during my times, it was like 5,000 was a huge money. In fact, one nostalgia which I could always be able to share was, like, I came to SSN, the same college. I won a first prize, where except SSN college, nobody actually enjoyed it, because I come from an arts and science background, right? So these kind of things were very common, right? And when a guy from an arts and science background comes to an engineering college and then winning is not a very normal thing. I don't know how the market is today, but 15 years ago it was not the case, right? And in fact, a lot of places they don't even allow. They said, no, we don't allow arts and science students. That's a mentality which people had, right? But things started moving, opening up. Then people realized that, okay, invite more people so that you get to learn a lot of things. That's exactly how the market got exposed. And we heard about, okay, 2010, there's 2009, there was a recession, 8-9 recession, and then no jobs were there. So by the time when I was completing, I had about 4 job offers. But then people are saying, hey, you didn't score well. Don't ask me what marks did I score, okay? It was never, not even closer to any of you in terms of from the bottom, right? So it'll always be on the first of the class, but from last. So that's exactly how we get the score. So 70% was like, don't study anything, don't mug anything, you go right, you still get 70%, what's the point in then getting more? And that didn't help me either, right? None of my marks helped me in my college, none of my marks helped me in any of the places. The only thing that got helped me was, what I really wanted to do was something which is very niche, alright? So, my research was in underwater wireless communication. Have you ever heard of this? Underwater wireless communication. Have you ever gone through the newspaper in the last 3-4 days time, BBC News, Times of India, anything? Any newspapers the last 2-3 days time? Everybody knows Titanic, isn't it? Everybody has seen Titanic, right? So I just been to Belfast a few weeks ago. So I went to see the Titanic. I figured out there is a building. They said this is Titanic. Okay, thank you for that. I actually saw it better in the movie. But there is today you have an opportunity. There is a company where you could get into a sub, a small sub size, like the size of the sub is like about 3/4 of this room, right? You can get into the sub, pay a humpty number of big amount of fee, and deep dive about 4 kilometers under the water in deep ocean and see the ruins of Titanic. It's possible, alright? And Sunday there is a crew of five people dived in the sub, alright? And those people, until today morning I did not get it, there was no news from them. And it's like disconnected, it's like MH370 kind of thing, where it got disconnected and there are over 70 ships are searching them, a lot of aircrafts are searching them because there is a billionaire, there are a couple of billionaires who are in there, alright? So this is the technology which I tried to learn when there was not many papers were published, right? And then it started moving forward 1-2 steps. When I start speaking about it, people said, oh, is this really possible? So what do you use in underwater? Said, I think it is acoustic waves. Oh, do you know what is the speed of acoustic waves? I said, no idea, but I think it is acoustic waves, so I want to do a PhD on it. Okay, that's exactly the knowledge I had. Then I wrote a research proposal which said, okay, there are two problems and we went to solve a problem and get to solve the problem. We don't know whether we can solve the problem or not is a $1 million question again, but never know whether we could do it. Wrote a proposal, sent it to about 7 different universities. 5 universities said, yeah, we are willing to offer you, but you could start 1 year later, 1 year now, we don't have funding, we wanted to invite you, this, that. And then 3 universities said, okay, these are your application forms, fill it, because you don't file your application first, you send a research proposal to the respective faculties, they have to approve it and then you fill a form, right? So I got confirmations from 3 people and then filled application. Within the next 48 hours time, I got admission from all the 3. It was only a formula that they have to follow, just a format of work. But which one I have to choose? I chose, went, did, nobody know what I did, okay? And that's exactly where it is. So I finished my PhD in about 23 months time, alright? But during the time, what I learned, if you're going to give something, what the world is not looking at, alright? And if you know how to explain it to somebody, then that's just going to come out. That's exactly what I learned. So cybersecurity is a terminology which got opened up in about 2015-16 times, right? But my research was in 2013. I finished it in 2012 itself. And then 13, Viva, all these things got done. 14, I got awarded. So that's exactly how the journey was throughout. But it was called as information security, more specific. It was more how my information is going to be safeguarded. Like it's my own data, it's my own thing. It is just today we speak about my own data, my own thing, but it used to be organization's data. It used to be competitive advantage, right? So if you create something and if I copy it, I could create something better than that. That's exactly what everybody was using information security as such. What we are talking about, the ISO 27001, like the standards, NIST standards, these were all existing for a very long time. But we've never seen it from an angle of cybersecurity as such. But today, that is the core where we try to create and see it from an angle of cybersecurity. The domains are very specific in cyber, and why cyber? That's another thing. Today, nobody asks that question, right? Why cybersecurity? Because hackers are everywhere. They are able to lure into networks. They are able to lure into applications, and they can steal our data and going to publish it in a dark web. Everybody knows dark web, right? Access dark web, yeah? Tor browser, like that's a gateway to Tor, the dark web. So we now know where it is going to be hosted, where it is going to be stolen, right? But how? The question is more from a how. Right? All of us speak about offensive hacking, right? All of us speak about hacking as a concept. How much am I going to hack? What am I going to hack? Am I going to hack network? Am I going to hack an application or a device? It is a lot of ways and means that you could actually do hacking. But just think about a common sense aspect. Do we have more criminals or do we have more police? Do we have more criminals or do we have more police? More police, correct? You know what's the stats that actually works out on criminal to police, right? It's actually not supposed to be criminal to police, it's people to police. X number of people versus police. That's exactly how the numbers will keep growing, right? There were not 30,000 policemen 80 years ago, correct? Today we have more than 100,000 policemen because the population has increased, right? So in order to protect X number of people, as a percentage of policemen are required. This is exactly how the composition works. But today we are talking about hackers versus police. Okay, hackers versus people who protect it. And this is exactly where we need to dive, right? So all of you are interested in cybersecurity here, right? Because the whole workshop is about cybersecurity. You would have learned a lot of things about cybersecurity in the last 10 days, correct? So I just want to ask you a few questions, okay, before we get down right in there. You would have understood about networks, application, cloud, compliance, and a lot of things, right? How many of you understood about operational technology? Heard of OT? Yes, no? No. Okay. What if the water that you are drinking at home, okay, is not treated well? The water that is coming in the pipe, alright, you're taking a shower in the water and the water is not treated well. What if you have an examination, you have an online examination, you have a meeting coming up, your power just goes off and you have no idea when the power is going to come up. The inverter charges 8 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, then gone, right? Imagine these things. What if suddenly you have a spike in your power? You're watching your television, you have your high effective televisions and your speakers and your washing machines, your dishwashers and all of these things. Suddenly there is about 500 watt power that's just coming in. What happens to all these devices? Everything will burn, boom, right? This is exactly where we are talking about protection to start with. Why did I start with OT as such is? Today everybody wants a job, right? In fact, everybody wants a job in your hand, right? On the other side of the story, I have never attended an interview in my life. Doesn't look really interesting, but it really happens. Until today, no interviews. And opportunities have always been on my table and I need to choose. Okay, inky, pinky, ponky. This is exactly what's been happening. And why? The only reason is I choose something that is very unique. I choose something where the technology is not exploded. When I started my research on underwater wireless communication, there were hardly about 150, 160 papers existed in the world. Now, how many cybersecurity papers are there? Maybe 25,000, 50,000, 100,000? Yeah, but imagine I only have about 150 papers. And everything speak about the same thing, A to B, B to C, and then vice versa, right? So, for you to read this 150 papers, how long does it take? Maybe 3 months, 4 months? Exactly. So that was one of the reasons where there was not many literatures that existed. Henceforth, whatever I wanted to propose was much easier for people to understand. Okay, because you have this, you're proposing something extraordinary, good to go. People have accepted it. And today, in cybersecurity, there is a new emergence that is coming in called operational technology, otherwise called as OT. We all know IT, right? This is OT, right? OT cybersecurity. It's been there for quite some time, but it's not been spoken well until there is a hack called as Colonial Pipeline hack, like in the US. Obviously, anything comes out, it has to come from the US or UK, then we actually get to have our eyes open, alright. But I don't see life in there because life is much effective in India, in countries like India, where you get to learn a lot, you have challenges, you also get pretty well paid. We'll also come to that part. That's also part of my definite stature to give you what positions are it and how much are we going to realistically proceed further and how much are we going to earn. Because career development is always going to talk about not just positioning, it's also how much are we going to earn, how fast are we going to settle, isn't it? Right? 4 years, 5 years, that's what everybody wants to settle, right? The moment you want to think 4 years, 5 years, you're not going to settle even after 50, I'll tell you. Okay? So that's a reality. A lot of people have heard, because my disadvantage is I've been the youngest wherever I go, alright, but my advantage towards it, I get to learn the maximum from the elderly people. So the experience gets doubled every time I go and join somewhere and work with somebody else. So that is exactly where I come in. So the OT technology that we are talking about is IT OT convergence. Okay, you know, we have nuclear power plants, yes, we have water treatment plants, yes, we have electricity power generation, hydroelectric power generation, right? A lot of other power generation techniques that we have. What if those power generation systems are corrupted? What if that particular data is going to be just boomed by an EM system? You've seen English movies, right? A lot of English movies. How many of you see Winter Soldier from the Marvel? Everybody? Yes, no? Yeah? You've seen one of the scenes where they just power on a device and then the EM wave just burned up, say about few kilometers to a few kilometer radius. And that is possible. There are devices like that. Exist today. Right? You've seen Fast and the Furious 8. Yes, you've seen the car dash scenes, and that is possible today. That is very much possible today, but not like 1,000 devices, but like few hundred devices very easily. In fact, April 2023, there was a statistics that came out, 10 lakh, like 1 million cars that are running in India are definitely hackable. See the numbers. Alright? All of these things come under operational technology. Right? We'll talk about IT also, because not many companies, many organizations don't offer OT as a domain. There are companies comparatively lesser in terms of that, but where do you really want to place yourself in 5 years? It's a common question that you go and get, somebody would be asking you in front of you, hey, where do you want to be in 5 years? You know, when we were in college, you know, the answer was, I want to be in your seat in 5 years. I want to be in your seat in 10 years. These answers becomes very funny during those times, talking about a decade ago. But today it's much more, right? In fact, I had a discussion with Mr. Mukundan who delivered the morning lecture. His son is an alumni of the same college. He's done his PhD in MIT and then he's got his own startup there. And said, a few years ago I was reading about H2O's AI CEO, H2O.ai CEO. Today I am in the same panel where he's sitting across and then we are having discussions. This is very much possible today. I don't know how many of you are going to be working or where I have to come to you saying, can you please approve this? Can you please help me out with this? And that world has already started, because in fact what today is 22nd, right? Yeah. So today the teacher who taught me what is networks in 2005, today is her Viva, PhD Viva. Okay, to be very precise. And she's working with me very closely. I love her a lot for the way that she taught us what is networks, and that's one of the reasons where I was able to pursue networks better. Alright, but I got my PhD in 2014 and she is getting her PhD today. I know she will clear it because she is a very talented woman. She was not in academia for a very long time, so she wanted to come back, started doing something, doing it today. It's happening in Adyar today. It's about 25-30 kilometers from here. Alright, so the life is upside down. And in fact, she requested me, can you be my examiner? Yeah, that's a life we are all working. Okay, and when I got to complete my research, and then I was working with CSIR in Australia, CSIRO in Australia. Like the moment you get in, you become a scientist, and then I was in 3 months internship with them. Okay, where my thesis was not submitted by the time. The person whom I was reporting, I was like 25. And the person whom I was reporting was 41, right? 3 months later, my thesis was published. Like I gave the thesis to the head of scientists for them to have a review. He appointed me as a scientist. The person whom I was reporting to, he ended up reporting to me. And that happened, right? So this is the upside down in the career that we all have, especially in the world of cybersecurity. But when you talk about OT as a subject today, the openings are much easier. The openings are much better. If you wanted to concentrate on, if you start today, you can understand the technology in about 6 months time. I think then you will get a very good go. And big companies are offering, like Ericsson, like Renault, automobile companies, then governments like NTPC, the DVC kind of electrical companies, they're all hiring effective people, especially they want women today. You know why women? Any reason? They really want women, Indian women, purposefully Indian women, not foreign women, Indian women. Fast. That may be a good reason, but the reason that people defining are more dedication towards work. Compared to men, the dedication towards work when a woman is taking up, it's much more better and higher. There are all other reasons come in, multitasking, fast and all of these things. But one thing is dedication, because today dedication has become a big question mark. 15 years ago, it was not like that. You join a company, you be in a company for 5 years, 6 years, it's normal. Today, you don't even stay in a company for 8 months, right? Today, in fact, from our end, we are faced with a danger in front of us, saying, okay, if I'm going to hire a person and if I'm going to train him for about 3 months or 6 months time, him or her, what if the probability the person will continue to stay here for another 2 more months? A lot of companies have actually called off their trainings. They've said on-job training, gradual training. So that every month I give you something, you put that efforts into it 1-2 months time, so that you don't jump out. All right. So that's a very bad attitude. In fact, it's been called as the 2K kids attitude. Right. So the opinions are changing more, but it's not. See, I don't say it's bad, but it's an attitude. Okay. So it's not a bad attitude at all, but it's an attitude that's now been accepted also. But everything gets to tune themselves, right? So now, the most important thing in OT also originates from IT. Clear? Now I said where you need to reach if you think OT, but it all originates from IT. So how does that happen? Right? Until now, what we call them IT systems and OT systems, they are all separate. Alright? But slowly the convergence are taking place, which means, okay, if there is a hydroelectric power plant in Dehradun, for an example, alright, and there is a problem in a sensor or something that is being deployed there, so the power generation is being deteriorated by 40%. Who are all going to be affected? People who are using power from there. But for that to be analyzed, person from Karnataka has to travel. If Kirloskar has given them a device, somebody from Kirloskar, Maharashtra has to travel to Dehradun to see what is the problem. How much of time, how much of power, how much of loss it is, correct? So in order to bring that down, the convergence is taking place, which means if there is a problem that's happening in Dehradun's hydroelectric power station, by a click, by a view, you can see what is the problem and say you can rectify it or not. If there is a component issue, then you got to order the component, but imagine the time I take it from Maharashtra to travel to Dehradun and see the place, visual place. I need to maybe go closer to I need to climb a mountain, go in a narrow path and try to identify what it is. Instead of that, I have one IoT sensor that I have deployed, and the sensor is transferring data, and the data is giving me enough information saying whether it's operating right or not. All of these things can come down within few minutes of time, right? We call them as security operations center or operation center, okay, command and control center. In OT environment, it's called as CNC, command and control center. But command and control centers are in particular areas, like if Dehradun's hydroelectric power station, they will have it in Dehradun only, in the same vicinity, but not elsewhere. So how will somebody be able to have a look into it, right? So how we realistically do today is install a sensor there, connect to the internet, monitor it. This is for the good. But the moment when you connect something to the internet, what happens? Security issue, cyber security issue pops up. Malicious hacker always wanted to take control over the systems and wanted to bring the sensor down, malfunction a sensor, create a problem scenario, alright. So there is a lake, imagine this scenario, there is a lake and that is feeding about close to 5 million people, about 50 lakh people is being fed by that particular lake, for instance. And if that lake is having a water treatment plant, every lake has a water treatment plant, right? And that water treatment plant's chlorine level, the pH levels are all like malfunctioning, and the water has to reach the city. How many people will get affected because of that, right? If the sensors are not working, or for me the pH level is supposed to be maintained at 6.7 for an example, okay? And what if the pH level is going to be 10? It's going to be disastrous, right? And what happens, because according to the systems, the water treatment in a hose or any of the water treatment plants, private plants, where you get a bottle of water, right? They will think that the water pH level between 6.5 and 7.2 for an example, if it is coming in that like that, the systems will add minerals and do the filtration according to these levels. What if the levels are going to be higher? Instead of 7.2, it's going to be 10, then automatically systems will not be able to operate, right? So everywhere there is going to be chaos. And this is exactly what we are talking today as IT OT convergence. Alright, I'm going to give you a terminology called as Industry 5.0. Heard of this before? Yeah? Industry 4.0, industry, right now we are in Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0 is just on the way. And IT OT convergence is one of the most important things that's going to be discussed in detail with clauses, standards, frameworks, protocols and stuff like that. So if you have intention in doing something very unique and high in cybersecurity, IT is always there, we're going to definitely touch base on that, but yeah, if you say my goal is going to be OT for the next 2 years, 3 years, I want to get into OT, you will become master in about 5 years time, 7 years time, right? When I started, as I said, information security was the term, cybersecurity was not even a common term. Every technology when it started coming into cybersecurity, I was able to update it. Okay, today I know all the technology. Just give a very clear disclaimer here. I know all the technology names, at least. I'm not saying I know all the technology as such, right? I know all the technology names and where is it applied to. I don't know the technology entirely. Because for someone to really spend all the time to only understand about technology, where will I do the preaching and where will I go to make money, right? So I know what is required for me to have it delivered and what is happening elsewhere. Get it? Imagine connected cars. Okay, water treatment plants are all like not going to be visible to us, but what about connected cars? We're all talking about connected cars, right? You know, the cars that we are all going in, the sound systems, the braking systems, how many of you know cruise control in a car? You know what's a cruise control? You drive your car at about 100 kilometers per hour. Okay, you click the cruise control button, it gets locked at 100 kilometers per hour. You can take your legs from the accelerator, and the car will continue to travel at 100 kilometers per hour. Today, you have sensors at the front of the car, all right, and those sensors. If there is a car that's you're driving faster, there's a vehicle that's going at front and that's traveling at about 80 kilometers per hour. You know what this vehicle will do? This will create an alarm first, then it will apply the brakes automatically to make sure that this vehicle of yours is not hitting this vehicle. Okay, there are a lot of technological names are out there. I'm not here to talk about that here. But the point here is, and if you brake plus the brake button, your speed will automatically gradually reduce. Right? So we're talking about these things being available for a longer time, where cruise control getting locked, kind of issues have happened. But imagine I can control your car when you're driving. Right? It's possible today. By systems that are available, by infotainment systems or the systems that are accessing the engine, the ECUs and other things, called as telematics. Right? So the music player that is installed in a car can be used as a weapon to access your car's brake, accelerator and all of these things. Funny, isn't it? But this is real. This is not a new news, this is about 7 to 8 years old news. And today we are talking about car data being sent to the manufacturer, the original equipment manufacturer, otherwise called as OEM. Alright? So if my car has got a problem with the wheel, the infotainment system, the telematics systems will communicate to the application that you have installed in your mobile phone. That mobile phone will pass the data to the command and control center of the OEM. If the car manufacturer is Maruti, for an example, a Suzuki, this data will get communicated to them. We don't have enough engineers to analyze those things and provide a solution today. Alright, so that's a very wide open technology, wide open area, which is not rocket science again, which is very easy. You just need to understand the simple logic behind it. So what you need to learn in order to achieve that? You know what you know the starting salaries of those profiles? It starts a bare minimum of about 6 lakhs, goes until 20 lakhs per annum for freshers. Alright, and for you to get that profile, for you to become a master in the profile, it takes only 3 to 5 years because there are not many people who are following that. So you become into a narrow line, easy for you to grow up in your life. Alright, that's exactly what I did. So I always choose a technology which is not prominent. Alright, I go and read research papers and try and understand, okay, what's coming up, what's coming up, what's coming up. There are a lot of IT research that are coming up, a lot of cybersecurity based research that are coming up. I said, okay, these are all, a lot of people are doing, but what is unique, what is different? And that's one way which will take you to different heights as well. So I will draw right now on the IT infrastructure, how you guys have to, you people have to get in, and what is going to take you to, if you are interested in OT or if you're interested in any of the segments in IT. Alright? Yeah, okay, you can see it, right? Okay, so let me put this here. So please pardon me with my handwriting. You know why I don't score marks now. Okay, so cyber security, right? I define it like 4 E's pillars. Okay. So pillar number 1, we call it networks or network security. All the entire infrastructure of that particular networks comes in. Infrastructure comes in with application, it comes in with networks. This is like network security, network, host, server infrastructures do come in. In fact, cloud is also part of networks. It does a convergence later point of time. Alright? So networks and network security. Right? Number 1. Next, application security. All your web application, your mobile application, your IoT application, your cloud application, everything pretty much comes into application security. Right? There's only 4 which I know so far. Alright? And everything falls one way or the other into these things. Because you use either a laptop, which is a desktop, right? Or web application, like desktop application, web application. Then it gets into mobile. That's a different version. Mobiles, PDAs, your iPads, your pads, and all of these things comes into it. And then it goes into IoT today because sensor applications are coming up very effectively. We are all operating by means of sensors, right? Right? How many of you have got a watch that can sense your heartbeat? 1, 2, 3. That can sense. How many of you have a watch in your hands right now to sense your heartbeat? Okay. So what's your heartbeat? You have turned it off. Turn it on. So what's your heartbeat? It's off. Right? But it has got its facility, right? So that's exactly what we're talking about. So that's an IoT. That's Internet of Things. That's a sensor that's connected to your body and captures those data. Alright? So gyroscopes, right? Helps you which altitude are you in. My mobile phone can tell me in what height I am actually standing. Right? We do all those, we use all of those things. We're not talking about the hazardous things. Let's keep all of those things away. Right now we're talking about technology. Let's talk technological, positive technological work. Alright? So all of these things comes into IoT kind of things, like IoT applications. And then finally you have the cloud applications. Right? But then you have the convergence on network security, application security, then you have the cloud. Because your networks that is critically happening or critically regulating all your infrastructure, whether it is a hardware infrastructure or it's an SDN software defined networking infrastructure, it's still the same, right? 1. And we need an application to run all of these things, right? So application security also comes in convergence. So your cloud is not without networks and application, and hence that is a holistic infrastructure. This is an infra. Without cloud you could say yes, fine, it's a local infrastructure, that's it. But without an application you can't say it's just an infrastructure. What if I just have a laptop and it does not have any software in it, it does not have a firmware in it? What is it? Table weight, paper weight? correct? Or maybe I can use it as a cricket board and then start playing like this, right? That's it. The third one is where we talk about GRC. What is GRC? G for governance, R for risk, and C for compliance. You understood what is NIST, what is ISO 27001, what is ISO 21434 and all these standards? Yeah? PCI DSS, HIPAA, HIPAA, all of those things are standards. Right? Act. HIPAA is an act. Right? ISO is a standard. So it's what we say as compliance, like rules or regulations that you need to follow in order to elevate yourself into a qualitative mechanism. Right? Don't confuse between act and compliance, standards. HIPAA is also compliance, right? But it's an act, it's a rule, it's a law in the land of United States of America, right? But ISO is a standard by International Standard Organization, right? There are many various other things that exist. 27K is commonly used for information security management systems. Clear? ISMS is otherwise called as 27001, 27002, 27003, 27017. So there are various other standards that exist for definition. Standards are voluntary. Act is mandatory. Find the difference. You want to improve your organization's quality, you can take up ISO standards, right? But if you are in the industry of payment gateway, okay, and you wanted to incorporate the payment gateway with 5 companies, any of the 5 companies like Visa, Master, Discover, Amex and JPY, you are forced to take up PCI DSS. That's again a standard. But if you are operating, accessing US patient data, US like any hospitals or any healthcare or anywhere in US, somebody is going to the doctor and you are accessing that particular data, then you are forced to follow HIPAA as an act. So that's a difference. So GRC speaks about these things. First comes in R, risk. Identify the risk of your business, check your compliance, double check your compliance, and then define it as governance, where it comes out as policies and procedures. What time were you all asked to come in the morning? 9:30 a.m., 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock, 9 a.m., 8 a.m. So you're all here at 8 a.m. in the morning, correct? What's that? That's a rule. That's a policy that's being defined. That's governance. But how did they do that? Why didn't they ask you to come at 2 p.m. in the afternoon? Why not? Why not at 2 p.m.? Because you will not have enough time. The risk of completing the sessions, if we start at 2, is not going to happen. So we start at 8 in the morning, right? So everywhere risk is being categorized. Sometimes it's hazardous. Sometimes it is various other factors incorporated into it. And then definition of that is concluded in your governance report, right? Compliance comes in to regulate it. What we call them as best practices. You want it, you follow it. If you don't want it, you don't need to follow it. And that's GRC for you, okay? It's a separate pillar of its own. It does not require hands-on technical skills, but if you have hands-on technical skills, it will help you to elevate yourself better, all right? Right. The last one we generally call it as monitoring. Alright, so this monitoring is continuous monitoring or depending upon timely monitoring. This is going to help you regulate your work. Okay, in fact, we define it as monitoring, but it's not core as such. Forensics, aftermath, incidents, looking out and incident management, and all of these things pretty much comes into this. So we say this is continuous improvement. So they said continuous improvement as the area. How many of you something called as SOC exists? SOC. SOC. Security Operations Center. Right? SOC also has a compliance standard, but for freshers to get in, SOC is easier to get in, it is monitoring. You get into monitoring, you continue to see your screen like this. all day. Get to learn first 3-6 months, it will be really interesting, but after that it become really bored if you are not understanding how it's happening, right? That's exactly where people get struggling today. There are thousands of SOC analysts are without job. Cybersecurity, I need people to join my company and many other companies like mine, but we are not finding the right resources. That's reality. So much of reality is there. You know why? Because people have become dumb. Yeah, that's absolute reality today. People have become dumb. People don't understand what's happening in the real world, and we are far away from where it is, and that has to stop. Which means you got to evolve. It's not like you continue to change your job every 6 months. You can evolve in the same team, elevate yourself. All right, and this is what today's challenge. You want to be amazing. Prove yourself you're amazing by learning something and incorporating something new. If the organization is not giving you the opportunity, then think of moving, right? See, say about 5 years ago, there were 2 reasons to move from an organization. There were 5 is like 2018 and before, 2017 times, okay. Pre-COVID is one, COVID even 2 years before COVID is also different. People switch jobs because, hey, manager is not good, is not giving me life, or the organization is having a cruel thought process. So reasons were only 2. The organization is good, but I don't have a good manager, or I'm not able to change my manager, or I'm not able to move to another team, henceforth I'm moving jobs. But today, I don't care about organization, I don't care about manager, I only care about my own. 6 months I've learned something, next 6 months I want to learn something else. That's a problem today, right? And after 5 years, you learn 10 technologies, you'll be a master of all or jack of none. You understand, right? So you have your resume packed up over a period of time, and you tend to show that I have learned about 10 different technologies inside cybersecurity. Can you tell me what happened when a problem like this comes? One critical question will put you down forever, and you'll be out of job after 4 or 5 years time. There are at least 5 to 6,000 profiles that are roaming in Naukri today. Naukris and Monsters and all the job portals. They're already in a very high salary. People are not interested to hire them, and those guys have been asked to leave. And this is happening today, and I don't want any of you to fall under that category. Right? So sometimes it'll be a struggle, sometimes it'll be enjoying. If you've seen the fruit of enjoyment, then it will be very difficult for you to go back and see the fruit of the toughness. So just be cautious about it. So if you want to find your career in cybersecurity, these are the domains that you need to probably start concentrating on. Alright? Now my question to you is, how many of you are coders here? Raise your hands. I like coding, I love coding. Okay, nobody else, right? Okay, so let's put no to application security. Simple, that's how you need to diversify yourself. Okay, I'm not a coder, I don't like coding, alright? A lot of people said, if you don't know coding, you're not a computer science engineer, isn't it? You're not an IT guy, isn't it? Right? That's not the truth. You know what? It's less than 9% is what coding is, application security is today. You know why? Less than 9%. Why? What is ChatGPT doing? Right? ChatGPT was hacked. How many of you are aware of that? Yeah, already 100,000 ChatGPT user accounts are available for sale in the dark web. How old is ChatGPT? 1 year? Not even, right? Or not even 1 year. ChatGPT is already hacked. 100,000 user accounts, users who signed up with ChatGPT, the data is out. I'll tell you what, I've never used ChatGPT so far. I'm not logged into ChatGPT at all. It's going to put you lazy. My sales team came back to me and said, hey Harish, see, fabulous email I've drafted from ChatGPT. I just said, I want to write a sales email to a customer as an entry point for cybersecurity space. They gave me the statistics. Beautiful, man. Get to use it. No worries. See how many you get a response. They did not get not even one response. You know what? And you know why? Any thoughts? all the sales guys did that and everybody got the same answer and everybody's emails was flooded with the same email. Logic, right? See, take it, improvise it. There is a concept called plagiarism. Everybody knows what is it? You copy something exactly from the book, that's called as plagiarism. Okay, you call them plagiarism, it's different, it's been spoken differently across India. Technology is spoken in Bihar as technology, alright? It's been spoken as different. So the word is, pronunciation is much different, but it's called plagiarism in general, okay? And when you say plagiarism as such, copying, but opposite to plagiarism is paraphrasing. Alright, which means you read it, you understand it, you write it in your own language for your understanding. See, the idea is to make you understand it, not just copy it from there. But what ChatGPT does today is interesting. It's mind blowing, no questions, no doubts. Alright, I saw when ChatGPT came in, I saw in my LinkedIn post, it says day 4, 1 million users, 100,000 users. It also gave some statistics. Facebook reached 100,000 users in so many days. This took 100,000 users in so many weeks. This took only 4 days to reach 100,000 users. And 100,000 user accounts are already available in the dark web for all of you to buy. So go buy usernames and passwords. Enjoy it. Right? So application security is less than 9%. Okay, now next. How many of you are interested in document writing? Hey, I'm good at document writing, I understand policy, I understand somebody says and I wanted to propose something very unique, different. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay. One of the options that you could choose would be your GRC domain, okay. A lot of people say GRC is not for freshers, but no, it's actually for freshers. In fact, in a very precise manner, because freshers' thought processes have always been very young, very niche, very fresh. And if you could analyze risk, for analyzing risk, you also need to have knowledge about that particular field. So what you have been asked to do, go research about the field. So your research mind is fresh, you'll be able to research much faster. So you attain risk, you understand the risk of a domain for which you need to do a lot of research. So I would say risk research, right? So if you think your knowledge is good in transferring things, then that's exactly what you should start thinking about it. Risk as a domain. How to ascertain risk? We all are good in ascertaining risk. You know what? Women are the best in ascertaining risk, not men. Right? There's an opening available for all of you waiting. Start thinking about it. That's one. Okay. Now, risk is one. Now, compliance. Somebody has written some documentation, standards, and stuff like that. Okay. You see ISO standards, NIST standards. What does NIST stands for? National Institute of Standards and Technology. Come on. Okay. So NIST's standards, like 800 is the number. Remember in life. That's for risk. Okay. So go read about that. You get to define your own risk statement. And you want to follow ISO standards, you want to follow PCI, you want to follow SOC, all other standards for that matter. All of these things are paged documents written neatly for people to understand it. 10 page, 15 page documents. How long is it really going to take for people from India, especially women from India who are amazing in mugging something, for you to reciprocate the same thing again? Much faster, isn't it? For me, it takes 6 months because I'm very bad in mugging. For my wife, it takes 3 days. She's amazing in mugging. Truth, that's exactly what it is. Women are always much better in remembering things better than men. Right? When I was leaving home, my wife was not there. What the hell is the combination? She would have actually asked this question to me. Right? So better, colors, remembrance, right? So when somebody has got better in it, I think you should be able to use them better. And for this domain, it is pretty well. Governance is not our cup of tea because top management will do the design. You propose, you do your job, do justice, your outcome is fantastic. So G, out of just leave the G, the R and C, and over a period of time, out of next 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, you will become the boss and you will be able to dictate on governance. So that's also your cup of tea over a period of time. But for that, you need to start today. Understand it, right? That's GRC. Now I come to the critical part of things where you have network security. Networks, anybody interested in networks, infrastructure, love networks, willing to keep your hands dirty, right? Yeah, by touching those wires and doing the crimpings, interested? Yeah, but you don't need to do any more of those. You have a console in front of you, you got to do the configuration. You don't need to keep your hands dirty by crimping and wiring and stuff like that. You have people to do that job. But we need intelligent people who can do the configuration better, and that is a huge requirement today. You know, CMRL, Chennai Metro Rail, right, Limited, or we talk about any of that, talk about Bangalore, we talk about any of the city where Metro Rail is being developed, created, there is shortage of network engineers. And they are elevating people from lowest level to that level, giving them training, making sure that they all work up to it. There is a huge demand that is going to be arising because IT-OT convergence is going to take place. Just to let you know that the rail network that we all have, signal and systems are separate, the booking systems are separate. Alright? Once the IT-OT convergence is going to happen, it is expected to merge somewhere. I don't know when it is going to merge, how it is going to merge. But when the time it is going to merge, the number of requirements is going to go 10x. Requirement of people in that domain is going to go 10x, and the jobs and the requirements and the salaries will also go pretty high. Because when there is a demand, everything goes high, right? So we used to buy onions for about 120 kilos, correct? It happened in India. So networks, and that's the base today. That's the requirement today. That's the base today, because a networking cannot be done by ChatGPT. All right. Reason: best practices keeps changing. Okay. There's a tech word called as ZTNA. Have you ever heard of that? Have you ever heard of that before? ZTNA. Okay, I'll get a question. Your relatives are knocking your door. What do you do? If you're inside the door, open the door, keep it shut. Good question. Your friends are knocking the door. What do you do? Open the door, right? Okay. Your friend, according to me, or my friend, according to me, is not trustworthy. Can you say that? But that is ZTNA. Zero trust network access. I don't trust anybody. If it's not an institution, I would have used a better word, but yes, now it's I will never trust anybody. Okay, this is the new era that we are all in. Alright, and any network that is going to come in, anybody who's going to come in who's already known to me, I'm not going to trust them. I'm going to frisk them and see what they are having, and I'm going to allow them in. Ever gone to a pub? No? Ever gone to a place where they ask you for your ID? Whether you are 18, 18 plus, 16, 16 plus. Even in theaters they ask, man, come on. I don't know which city in that. Yeah? There are a few movies they ask, hey, are you 18? Can you show me, are you 16? Right? It does happen. They allow people who are under 5, but they don't allow anybody over 5. I don't know what's the logic behind it, but that's exactly what's happening in theaters today. But they'll do that, right? But they only check for that. But you know, theaters, in certain theaters, they actually frisk you, saying, hey, what are you having in your pockets? They don't want you to carry any alcohol. They don't want you to even carry any food because it may be allergic to somebody. The smell may be allergic to somebody because it's a closed room. Right? Likewise, I don't trust anyone. That's what ZTNA says. Zero trust network access says, it could be my mother, it could be my parents, my in-laws, my aunt, my uncle, my friend, I don't care, I'm not going to trust anyone, I'm just not going to allow them without frisking. And that's zero trust network access. And this is today's talk. Your ChatGPT cannot do this. As far as my knowledge is concerned, I'll also put the disclaimer very clearly because I'm not a ChatGPT user, but I've been reading about ChatGPT. So, it is not possible for us in relying on technology, otherwise, on the other side, we got to know what is inbound and what is outbound traffic, who is coming in and who is going out. So this is a place where you could concentrate on, and there is a technological world called SASE. You know, sorry, but this is SASE. Okay? Secure Access Service Edge. SASE, it's on the cloud, and ZTNA applies to cloud. So we're all talking about cloud, we're all accessing cloud, right? And these technologies are your requirement. You need to go search about these technologies, understand what these are. Don't go to try and do a presentation where there are 4 types of cloud exist kind of things, right? Go do, understand, connect ZTNAs, SASEs. This is exactly what your interviewer wants to hear from you. Get it? Clear? Questions? Yeah. You need to find out applications if you are not doing a research. There are 2 ways to look into it. When I was looking at cybersecurity, it was already an emerging field. Okay, that was easier for me to get into it with my research knowledge. But when I was looking into underwater wireless communication, it was not an application oriented field, it was an emerging field, right? When I started, Titanic search was not available. Like Titanic was a movie that was shot in 1993, 94, okay, but how many of you are born during the time? Right? So it's different. If you want to look into research, absolutely yes. No questions, it's growing pretty well. But from an application standpoint, I'm not too knowledgeable on that, maybe to answer on that question. Right? So it's not connected to cyber yet in terms of regulated application orientation, right? Or operational orientation. Either it should be application or it should be operation, not in that line. Maybe not right person to answer that, but in research, yes, it is going pretty well. It's like quantum computing, right? We've been talking about quantum for a very long time, right? Ant-Man talks about quantum, correct? Yeah, they say they live in quantum, correct? But you know the fastest quantum computing is not even 3 minutes old. It cannot even run for more than 3 minutes. And if it runs for 4 minutes, all the brute force attacks can be hacked. All the algorithms that operates with ransomware can be hacked, can be re-hacked, maybe I would say it that way, right? But for running a quantum computing for 3 minutes, it's a task that we all have to maybe put our efforts into it. Maybe I don't know how many years it's going to take or how many months or how many weeks. I have no clarity on that, but the data that we have is only 3 minutes of quantum computing can run by IBM today, the most powerful ones. We're not talking about supercomputer, we're talking about quantum computer. Clear? So if you understand ZTNA, if you understand SASE kind of things, then your knowledge on cloud is going to be much effective. Okay, so I'll go back to the same slides. Sorry. Okay. So now the last thing that we have on the cards is going to be monitoring. Right? So the command and control center, which I said in IT environment, it's called as SOC, Security Operations Center. Okay, so when you say SOC, monitoring, like operation, what is happening in security domain, we get to see, we get to operate. Okay, imagine ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access based devices are incorporated into a network architecture for enablement, for lookout, right? Do you still think hack can happen? I have one of the sophisticated technology available, I've got the right person, ZTNA enabled in the cloud, beautiful. I have multi-layer architecture and everything there. Is it still hackable? How many of you say, I don't know? Okay. Okay, how many of you say, yes, it is hackable? Okay, how many of you say, no, it's not hackable? Okay, so I've got only I don't know and I got said yes. The answer is actually yes. 0 day, remember? What is 0 day? Time of what? Release. Exactly. So if I am identifying a vulnerability, remember, okay, at about 1 AM today, and I'm not able to find a patch by 1 AM tomorrow, that day is called as a 24-hour span. You ask like 1 AM of EST versus 1 AM of PST, this isn't happen the way it is. Whatever the time zone that you identify within the next 24 hours, you don't identify, it's a 0 day. Okay. So if you have a 0 day, nothing can block it, right? But what happens in the security operations center is, you could preemptively take action. You can proactively have patterns. You know how hacks happen by any way? You've all heard of like hacking. I've seen a lot of hacks. Hacks do takes place. This is hacked, that is hacked. ChatGPT has got 100,000 user hack, correct? But how is it really happening? Nobody explains it, correct? Why? Why nobody explains how it is happening? Because nobody get to touch there. That's a problem today, right? So I'll tell you how the real hacks happen. Okay. So you have a system. The system is got, it's a hardware or it's a cloud environment. It has got an application which is making the system communicatable, like the interface, right? We call them the interface. And the software is operating on top of it. You don't know what's the hardware behind it. You also don't need to know about it unless or until you have it on your own device. It's a phone or something like that. It's your own device. You don't need to know about it. Most of the hacks do happen from application and go into the networks. That's exactly how systems operate. But when you try and understand the layer behind it, we call them front-ending layer, we call them a middleware, then it communicates to the hardware, all these layers. You need to probably go back to a computer architecture book by Morris Mano and then start looking into it, you'll understand the better things. But here, the originality is, I have made a mistake on the code, okay, probability 1. I have written the code wrong coding, okay. I have configured the code wrong, though coding was good, but I have configured the code wrong. I have never updated the code, right. So there are various aspects that a hack could happen. So how this is now happening? Now I am trying to like do a search, we call them scan. When we do a scan, we get to see, okay, this particular application is running on depleted operating system, say Windows 7 or Windows 8, Windows 8.1. You know, the support to all of these operating systems are all stopped today. This operating system support is only for Windows 10 and Windows 11 from Windows angle. Alright, so let's talk about Windows because it's the most prominent one, a lot of people use it, common ones, okay. And it's also interesting to always be because they're always the scapegoat. And they end up making more money because they become the scapegoat. That's also another side of the story. So this system, which is running on Windows 7, did not have any update, but systems that are built on top of it has got more security measures, but this continues to be here. So imagine that you have a house door, okay, that's like 35-year-old house, and then you got a door in it. How fast should I have to actually bang in for the door to break? Not fast enough. Correct? One kick, it's going to be just gone. But if it's the same new door, a one kick would be enough. And do a few more kicks, it's going to make a lot of noise. Correct? But old doors, because of its utilization, right? It is supposed to be updated. It is supposed to be repaired. It's not happened, right? And I found a mechanism issue, and that mechanism is right now being touched for me to break into the system. And this is exactly what is happening in every system. And I find out the right code. Everybody knows SQL injection? Yeah? SQL injection happens where? In the database or in the code? Really? No. You get to expose the database by SQL injection as a vulnerability. It's an injection, it happens in the front end code, not in the database. You all know how to write a SQL injection code, I know that. But how? This is exactly where the question that you will be asked. SQL injection as a vulnerability is not a database vulnerability. It is a vulnerability that is, the end result is going to show you the database, right? Because you write SQL queries, right? What if I'm not using an SQL? There's a technology called NoSQL, yes or no? What if I'm not using NoSQL? Will I still be able to get into the database by using SQL injection? It's a logical question. Yeah? Go back home in the evening, do your research, you find your answer for yourself. I'll leave it open for you. Correct? We are all moving towards no SQL, no query here. Come on, I wanted to get rid of this database forever. Whether it's going to happen or not, I don't know, but we're all going towards that. We said no code, low code. What does that mean? What is no code and what is low code? LOW, low. Drag and drop, the code is automatically built by AI engine. We used to write codes for a palindrome to be written. How many long lines of coding we used to write, right? Some 15, 20 lines of code. A spyware can be written in about 4 lines of code today. Possible. So no code, low code technologies are all coming in. I don't know what is that no code, I don't know what is low code. But I know these technologies exist and it's going to ease our job. Right? Whether I know or don't know, it's a different thing. But right now I'm saying I don't need to know about it because there are good enough people, good enough architects who are there in the world to do the job. Correct? So whatever that's required for you, you get to concentrate on that. You get to know these stuff and that's going to help you fetch a job. But remember, SQL injection is a code level vulnerability, not a database level vulnerability. You expose the code, you query the code, the query is going to be responded by the code, you get to view the SQL database. What is LDAP? Have you heard of this? LDAP. That's another problem. You all know Active Directory? Yeah, heard of Active Directory? Like in organizations, systems are all connected and you log in from the system, it goes to the system and then authenticated for you are to be used, right? It's like one single server that controls all the users. And in an organization, when they need to update, they don't go to every computer and update. They push the update from the central server and goes to all the systems. It has to be connected by some mechanism called as a directory. Okay, and you use it every time you enter username, it has to be validated by the server. So it gives you much more rules. It gives you much more extra leverage on controlling the security mechanism better, right? Active Directory. That's one thing you may have to start looking into it. So these active directories or these connections are going to make a difference in your access levels and going to give you the right permissions for you to access all along. So this LDAP as a protocol, okay, will help you. There's got a port number as 389 and then you go to access that protocol. It is going to help it's called as lightweight directory access protocol. It's going to help you connect to an individual server for access to be enabled. And that's exactly how the systems work. So these terminologies are the requirement for you to get you clear an interview. And you need to explain them, okay, this is what it is. So you need to start from end to end, right? So what is first and what is last? You know, what is an order that those systems are to be placed? Any idea about anybody? Will a security be sitting in the center of the hall, living room or on the gate? Got it? Correct? Will a toilet be at the center of the house or the corner of the house? Will a television be installed at the center of the hall or at the corner of the hall? Corner of the hall. Will a couch be on the center of the hall or the corner of the hall? Get it? Correct? Will the fan be at the corner of the room or in the center of the room? You got it? This is exactly what we call them as placement. And that placement in cybersecurity is very, very, very important. If you don't understand placement, you don't get placement. You get it? Right? So, all of you clear about these 4 things? Monitoring? Yeah, go ahead. Placement is placement only. Correct. I will show you now. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. So, what is to be placed where? Right? So, let's talk about certain things. So, let's talk about firewall. Where is this? Have you ever seen a firewall before? No? No? Have everybody seen a modem before? Modem, router at home, Wi-Fi router, Wi-Fi modem? Yes? Imagine two sides of a just keep one more modem on top of it, the thickness, that's exactly what a firewall is, a small size firewall, okay, and then it goes up to this big. Have you seen a switch? Yeah, exactly like that, maybe little bulgier, but same type. So that's a firewall, okay. What is this? DMZ, demilitarized zone. Heard of this? No. Are we all living in a militarized zone or in a demilitarized zone? Are we all living in a demilitarized zone or in a militarized zone? Don't say teachers are militaries, okay? We are all living in a demilitarized zone, okay? You can do whatever you want, right? You can have a loud music, you can have a dance party, yes or no? In a militarized zone, you can't do any of these things. You'll have to keep your shirt up and then eat and do your job. You get the difference now between militarized and demilitarized zone? Yeah, okay. So, in a network, in an environment, demilitarized zone plays a very, very, very important role, okay? Right. Heard of this term called sandbox? SAND, sandbox. What is sandbox? Huh? Artificial? These are too intelligent here, come on. I'm not that intelligent, I got to stick to basics. Not a wrong answer, but not a right answer too. It's a good try. It's an environment where you can practice. You written a code, you wanted the code to be tested, you can test it inside a sandbox, nothing will happen. Protected, it's a properly protected area, you can do anything you want. If you just go about 70 kilometers from here, there's a place called Avadi in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai, okay. There they manufacture the tanks. You drive on the road, you actually sometimes hear dumb kind of noise, they actually practice, not joking, they actually practice firing those tanks. And that area you can't get in, that's a militarized zone, and that the way where they practice the tank testing, that's called as a sandbox environment. Okay, you can test anything you want, nothing will happen there, right? Honeypot. Exactly. So you create a duplicate system for the hacker to think that this is the real system with vulnerabilities and fake documents, fake files. When the hacker comes in, hacker thinks this is a real file, you end up monitoring everything using monitoring tools and create a defensive mechanism for that particular hack incorporated in your internal systems. That is a honeypot, right? People catch, there are a lot of videos available for catching mice, right? Mice. How does it happen? They make sure that there is a cheese, there is a coconut or something like that kept, when the moment when they touch, the mouse touches the coconut, it just opens up and goes into the trap. Honeypot is a trap, alright? Okay. Heard of this? L3, L2, L1 switches. L3 switch is your router. It can act as a switch, it can act as a router. I'll give you simple examples for you to remember L1, L2 and L3. Okay, there's a switch there, correct? Can you all see the switch? Imagine that's a fan switch. Is there any regulator right there? No. I'm going to power it on, the fan is going to just be on. I'm going to power it off, it's going to stop. That's an L1 switch. You provide input, you get an output. That's it, you can't do any configuration. That's L1. L2, the same switch with a regulator. Right? I can reduce the speed, I can increase the speed, I can do anything I want. I can also have a two-way switch. Correct? I can do that. That's L2. L3 switches, I can use that switch for light now. Later on time, I can use the same switch for fan. Imagine that. A same switch, I can use it for light, I can use it for fan, I can also use it for AC. That's L3 switch. That's a difference. Okay. So a router, the home router that you all have for Wi-Fi is a router. It has got L1, L2 and L3 switches capability in it. It's a modem. It converts those data, right? And it also helps you, if you connect, there will be 3-4 ports, right? You connect your printer, you can access Wi-Fi printing. Have you ever tried that before? A normal printer can be converted into Wi-Fi printer. Yeah, you just connect the printer. If the printer has got network capability, you connect the printer into your router, scan it, find it. Every time you print it within the network, you don't need to be connected to internet. You don't need to be connected to the internet for the Wi-Fi printing to work. Even if internet is powered off, you connect to that router, you print it, your printer will still deliver it. Correct? So your router has got the capability. That is L3. It has got facilities, features incorporated, and we create something called as VLAN. What is VLAN? Virtual LAN. Right? We create virtual LANs by departments, by teams. Depending upon requirement, we create it. How many of you have siblings here? Most of you. Yeah? Do you have a secret code to talk to your siblings? Secret terms, secret words, secret something, you both have done something secret? That's only between you both, right? Or your cousins, somebody? Yeah? That's will never come out. Okay? Anything that happens within a virtual LAN, it's like that. Right? So it's a LAN that gets connected from one device to another, like one to multiply, one to many, it's also possible, but however you want it to create. I just gave an example for siblings as an example, right? Or with friends, pretty fine. Everybody will have friends, secret things sharing, always been like that, unless or until any one of you opens up. During the communication, it becomes pretty secure. So VLANs are pretty important. It goes by teams. Finance team goes by one VLAN. Administration teams goes by one VLAN. That's exactly how organizations are supposed to configure for segregation of signals. So these devices are very important for you to learn, and this is the order that it is also being placed. And then your individual laptops and desktops are called as host. Okay, so you do everything and all the data will go through these in order like this. You want to see a diagram like this? Ease of understanding. So imagine this is the cloud internet, okay, and I have a perimeter. I call this a perimeter. Alright, I have a firewall, this is a primary firewall, I have a secondary firewall, okay, and I am going to connect my DMZ here. Alright, I have my sandbox, I have my honeypot. Alright, these are all, why am I putting 2 arrows? Because they are all duplicate connection. Alright, so secondary firewall then goes into where? Into a switch, I'll say an L3 switch, it goes into multiple L2 switches, okay, and then it goes into say a server and host machines. Host machines are your multiple servers, multiple hosts, are your laptops and desktop. This is a simple network architecture that, there are a lot of other devices, load balancers and a lot of things that keep coming in. I just gave you what is required from your end. Being a fresher, if you can talk this, In fact, the interviewer will not be asking any further questions at all. They'll only say, hey, okay, I know you know something, let's talk about something else, right? So this is exactly the way that you people should propose if you wanted to get into networking or security or network security or into the security operations center. Now you get where to go, what to do. Yeah, everybody is clear? So any questions from here? There are only two ways. One is everything is inside your head, or everything is over your head. Which category are you all in? Easy, right? Nothing rocket science. It's all pretty simple common sense. And you just apply the common sense in the right place. Don't try to think of putting an indicator when you are sitting in a chair, right? When you're driving a car, riding a bike, make sure that when you're taking a right or left, don't think about something else apart from switching on your indicator. That's common sense, which is unfortunately have become very uncommon today. Yeah? For cybersecurity, common sense is the most important thing, as the first thing. And then you get to learn everything that you want and then keep going forward. So whatever I have learned is absolutely by means of common sense, right? Whatever I read is different, but where am I going to apply that, right? So you need to create my own area for applying that. That's exactly how things will move forward. For you to get into a profile, you need to choose. So none of you are interested in programming here, fantastic, but programming, as I said, it's less than 9%, so you have about 91+% of job opportunities that are open for all of you, which is simply very interesting, correct? Try not to go into application security, you will get stuck somewhere, but application security is one of the highly paid jobs as well, simultaneously. So you start with an analyst, okay, in most of the organizations, then you become a senior analyst, then you become an engineer, you become a senior engineer. Okay, then you become certain companies, depending upon their profiling, you become associate or architect. Depending upon organization, it keeps varying. Like say about 15 years ago, there used to be a common hierarchy that's been followed all across, but today it's different. I follow some hierarchy, somebody follows something else as a hierarchy. So it's depending upon the organization where you want to move there. Somebody says after you become the senior engineer, you become a manager, you become a senior manager, become a project manager, senior project manager, then you become an architect, senior architect. There are always two domains. One is technical, one is business, right? A lot of people think after a point of time they want to move into business, all right? They have the capability of also moving into business because they talk a lot. A lot of people don't talk, they always want to only be in technical domain. They'll never come up in life, that's what people think. But one day is what is required for a technical guy to just come up and showcase what it is. But remember the story of Apple. Is Steve Wozniak better than Steve Jobs, or Steve Jobs better than Steve Wozniak? No. Steve Jobs did not even know what Steve Wozniak knows. Not even 10% of what Steve Wozniak is, Steve Jobs is not. That's what we all say, because he talks, because he markets. That's how it is. But you know what? Steve Wozniak being having a very peaceful and happy life, but Steve Jobs did not. So what do you want to be? You choose. You can also be both today. That's possible. A lot of technicians have become today entrepreneurs. Elon Musk is a technician, right? Physics is what he started with, and where he is today, right? Owner of Tesla, owner of Twitter, owner of this, owner of that, owner of Starlink. Just have to divert yourself. But if you want to think something like that, stick to your basics first. The moment you are sticking to your basics, your career is going to be much better than that. I'll tell you what, a lot of people keep talking about ChatGPT to me. Hey, this is doing this is doing that, it's been amazing. Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Oh, okay, is it realistically? But never ever. I've been sitting in my computer, I've got a home lab. My lab is about 5-screen lab. Okay? And the same laptop that I use here, go there, connect my connectors, it becomes a 5-screen lab. Not even once I've even gone into ChatGPT's page. Not even once. You can check my history, never. You know why? Because there are a lot of things when I go switch on my laptop, I get a lot of mails, a lot of research articles that is actually taking you to a different level for you to read and understand it. Instead of relying on something, right? Understand this. You should be relying on yourself than relying on something. Got it? So if I wanted to showcase something, yes, that's fine. I could have come with a PPT today. I realized that, when Karthika ma'am called me and then she said, this is what it is and the audience are this, and probably think what you do. In fact, in general, I don't go with a PPT. Very rarely I go with unless or until it's an awareness program, I go with a PPT. Or it's an online program, I go with a PPT, because in online, it's very difficult to see only up to my burst. Right? That's always difficult. But then you start thinking, okay, what the hell this guy is wearing, man? Why he's not wearing this? Why he's not wearing that? It's everybody's thought process, right? But something will keep bringing you back. Right? The room is good, lights are good, the fan is good, the colors are good, or something is bad. This is very bad smell that's coming in. So you have a lot of thought process but in online it doesn't. But we also do a lot of online teaching. No other option. That's how life is. Right?